The vanishing. The twin suns of the Virel Dominion rose over the crystal spires of the royal city, bathing everything in gold and violet light. The queen stood upon her balcony, her silver crown glimmering as she watched her empire awaken. For centuries, Queen Seria of the Virel race had ruled with unmatched strength, her voice feared across the stars. But this morning, something felt wrong. A deep silence echoed through the palace corridors, a silence that even her telepathic guards could not explain. 2 of her daughters, the youngest of her 6 heirs, were missing from their chambers. The royal attendants bowed in panic, trembling as they reported the impossible. "Their highnesses were there last night sleeping peacefully," one servant cried. But when the dawn came, their beds were empty, their life signals gone. The queen's golden eyes narrowed as she stepped into the royal nursery, her long cape brushing across the floor. Everything was untouched, the toys neatly arranged, the air still warm, and yet her children were nowhere to be found. She reached out with her psychic senses, her mind extending through the halls, through the sky, through the orbiting fleets above. But there was nothing, no trace, no echo, no memory left behind. That kind of disappearance was not possible, not even with their highest technology. Someone, or something, had erased them completely. The queen's voice thundered through the palace. "Seal the system." Ships launched in every direction. The capital world locked down. No vessel allowed to leave. The Galactic Council was notified. The Virel Dominion was on high alert, and every living being in her empire knew. When the queen was in pain, stars could burn, hours passed, and then days. Her army searched every planet, every wormhole, every shadow of the known universe. But the girls were simply gone. The queen sat alone in the throne chamber, her hands clenched, her heart heavy. She whispered their names under her breath. "Lyra, Nyra, where are you?" The great throne, made from the bones of extinct beasts, seemed colder than ever before. The royal oracle, a living AI born from starlight and data, appeared before her. "My queen," it said in its calm metallic tone, "I have searched every possible realm. No sign of their genetic code exists in this galaxy." The queen rose, her aura pulsing with blue fire. "Then search beyond the galaxy," she commanded. "Find me who did this." The oracle hesitated. "There is one anomaly. A rift signature traced near the Terran system. Planet code 3EB, local name, Earth." The queen's eyes flickered. Humans, a primitive species from a forgotten corner of the Milky Way. They had barely reached their own moon. Yet their planet was now connected to her daughter's disappearance. She refused to believe it, and yet the data did not lie. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered coldly. "If a single human has touched them, their world will burn." While the Empire moved like a storm through the stars, far away on a quiet blue planet, morning sunlight filtered through dusty curtains of a wooden cabin. A man stirred in his sleep. His name was Ethan Cole, a forest mechanic who lived alone at the edge of Pine Valley. He had no family, no visitors, only the company of the wind and the sound of the river nearby. That morning he felt a strange warmth on his chest. At first he thought it was his cat, but then he remembered. He didn't own one. When he opened his eyes, his breath caught in his throat. 2 small figures were curled up against him, sleeping soundly, their skin faintly glowing in soft shades of silver and blue. They looked like children, but not human. Their hair shimmered like light underwater, their tiny hands clutching his shirt. Ethan froze, unsure if he was dreaming or losing his mind. He slowly sat up, and one of the girls opened her eyes, revealing irises like liquid mercury. She looked at him for a moment, then whispered a word he couldn't understand, her voice trembling. "Protector." His heart raced. He blinked and tried to speak. "Hey, who are you? Where did you come from?" But before he could stand, the lights in his cabin flickered and died. The radio went silent. His old clock stopped ticking. Every electronic device shut down at once. Outside, the air grew still, unnaturally still. Then came a faint hum, like 1,000 bees whispering beneath the earth. Ethan looked through the window and saw the forest glowing faintly, with strange blue veins of light crawling across the trees. He stepped back, his instincts screaming. The older of the two girls grabbed his hand tightly, her voice shaking. "It followed us. Please, don't let it find us." Ethan's mouth went dry. "What followed you?" Before he could finish, a sound like distant thunder rolled through the woods and shadows moved between the trees. He didn't understand what was happening. He didn't know where these children came from. But something deep inside him, something human, told him one thing. They were scared, and they needed help. He looked at the trembling girls and said softly, "Don't worry, you're safe here." The forest outside rumbled again. The light flickered. Ethan grabbed his old hunting rifle, his eyes cold and steady. Whatever was out there, he would face it. He had no idea that the universe itself was watching him, and that far above in the void of space an alien queen had already begun her march toward Earth. The stranger and the stars, the forest had never been so silent. Even the birds refused to sing. Only the wind carried faint whispers through the tall trees. Ethan stood at the window, holding his old rifle close, his breath fogging the glass. Outside, the blue glow that had spread through the forest was slowly fading, as if whatever caused it was retreating, waiting or watching. He turned toward the two glowing girls still sitting on the bed. They looked frightened but curious, their silver eyes scanning every corner of the small wooden cabin. Ethan tried to smile, trying not to scare them. "It's okay," he said quietly. "You're safe here." The younger one tilted her head, repeating softly, "Safe. Here." Her accent heavy but her tone gentle. Ethan blinked, surprised that she could mimic words so quickly. "Yeah," he said again, nodding slowly. "Safe." He crouched near them, keeping a bit of distance. Their small hands clung to each other tightly, and he could see faint golden markings glowing under their skin. They were definitely not human, but they didn't look dangerous, just two lost kids far from home. He poured them some water, but they only stared at the glass, unsure what to do. The older one finally reached out and touched it, and the liquid shimmered like quicksilver under her fingers. Ethan frowned, muttering to himself, "Guess water ain't water for you two, huh?" Suddenly, the cabin lights flickered once more, and the radio on the shelf crackled to life. Through the static came a distorted voice, mechanical, alien, searching. It repeated a strange tone like coordinates being broadcast. The two girls froze, their eyes wide in fear. The older one whispered in a trembling voice, "They are near. They are searching." Ethan didn't understand, but her fear was real enough to make his skin crawl. He switched off the radio, covering it with an old towel. "All right," he said calmly. "Who's searching? You got someone looking for you?" They didn't answer. Instead, the younger girl pressed her palm to his chest, right above his heart. A faint pulse of light spread from her hand and sank into his skin. For a moment he felt warmth, calm, and a strange sense of connection. Then she looked up at him with teary eyes and whispered, "Protector." Again, Ethan took a deep breath. "Okay, kid, guess that's me then." As night fell, he built a small fire inside the cabin stove. He gave them some bread and soup, which they watched carefully before trying. Their faces softened as they tasted it, and for the first time, they smiled. It was a small smile, shy, almost uncertain, but it melted the cold air in the room. Ethan couldn't help but chuckle. "See? Told you. Human food's not that bad." The older one tilted her head again, repeating slowly, "Who, man? Food." "Yeah," he nodded. "That's right, human food." When they finished eating, they looked at him curiously. The older one touched his rough hand and whispered something in her own language. Ethan didn't understand, but her tone carried gratitude. He simply replied, "You're welcome." Outside, the wind howled through the trees. Something big was moving out there, and the sound made the cabin walls creak. Ethan tightened his grip on the rifle, staring into the darkness beyond the window. Then he saw it, two red eyes glowing among the trees, unblinking, moving closer. The ground trembled slightly with each step. The girls gasped, clutching each other, whispering, "It followed. It found us." Ethan grabbed a lantern and stepped toward the door. "Stay here," he ordered. "Whatever's out there, I'll handle it." The younger one shook her head desperately. No, it kills. It eats light." But Ethan had already opened the door. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of burning metal. The forest ahead shimmered as if reality itself was bending. And from between the trees emerged a creature made of shadows and smoke, its form twisting and shifting. It had no mouth, no face, only red eyes burning like fire. Ethan's instincts screamed to run, but he stood firm. He raised the rifle, aimed for the eyes, and fired. The bullet tore through smoke, but the creature didn't fall. Instead, it shrieked, a horrible metallic sound that shook the air. Ethan stumbled back, but the twins stepped forward. Their hands glowing, golden light burst from their palms, weaving into symbols in the air. The creature hissed, retreating slightly. Ethan shouted, "Keep doing that," as he grabbed an oil can and threw it into the fire. Flames erupted near the doorway, and the creature screamed louder. The golden light from the twins joined the fire's orange glow, creating a burning barrier around the cabin. The shadow twisted and dissolved, vanishing into the night with a roar that echoed for miles. When silence returned, Ethan dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. The older girl ran to him, touching his forehead, her eyes full of worry. He smiled weakly. "Told you. I'll keep you safe." She stared at him for a long moment, then placed her small, glowing hand on his chest again, whispering, "Protector. Human protector?" Ethan laughed softly, shaking his head. "Yeah, that's me." I guess. Outside, the fire slowly faded, leaving trails of smoke curling into the starry sky. Up there, hidden beyond human eyes, the Queen's ships had already entered the edge of the solar system. Her sensors picked up faint energy signatures from Earth, matching her daughter's royal code. The Queen leaned forward on her throne, her voice a whisper filled with both rage and relief. "Found you," she said, down on Earth, unaware of the storm coming. Ethan sat beside the sleeping girls, staring at the stars through his window. He didn't know what they were, where they came from, or why they called him Protector, but deep inside, he felt it. This was just the beginning. The Queen's wrath in the cold silence of space. The royal flagship Eternal Radiance moved through the dark like a living storm. Its golden hull shimmered with lightning, its engines leaving trails of violet fire across the stars. Inside, the alien Queen stood before the viewing deck, her eyes burning brighter than any sun. Before her hovered a holographic projection, two faint blue dots pulsing on a small blue planet. The signal was weak, but it was enough. Her daughters were alive, and they were on Earth. Her wings, long and translucent like crystal blades, unfolded slightly, glowing with power around her. Generals knelt in silence, afraid to speak. Finally, one dared to ask, "Your Majesty, the Council forbids interference with the Terran species. They are primitive." The Queen's gaze silenced him instantly. "Primitive?" she hissed, her voice echoing through the chamber. "They stole my blood, they touched my children." Her power surged, and the entire ship trembled. "No law, no treaty, and no council will stop me," she said coldly. "Prepare the invasion fleet." Thousands of ships activated in unison, their energy signatures lighting up the void like a second galaxy. The Queen's wrath spread across her forces, and entire star systems adjusted their course toward the Milky Way. But deep down, hidden beneath her fury, there was fear. Fear of what kind of being had found her daughters before she could. Far below on Earth, Ethan was fixing his broken radio again. He had stayed up all night after the strange attack. Unable to sleep, the two girls were curled up under blankets, still glowing faintly, their breathing calm. He looked at them and whispered, "Who are you two, really?" He didn't expect an answer, but the older one slowly opened her eyes. She spoke softly, struggling with human words. "We are daughters of light." Ethan blinked, confused. "Daughters of light? That's poetic, but what does it mean?" The younger one reached toward the window and pointed at the morning sky. "Mother." "Coming," she whispered. Ethan frowned. "Your mother? She's coming here?" The twins nodded, their expressions mixed. Part joy, part fear. Ethan laughed nervously. Well, I guess that's good news, right? But their silence told him it wasn't. Outside, the sunlight dimmed for a moment, as if something massive had passed between Earth and the sun. Ethan stepped out of the cabin and looked up. Shielding his eyes, a faint shimmer like a giant mirror reflected the sunlight in strange patterns across the clouds. He felt the hair on his arms rise, the same way it does before a thunderstorm. Then he heard it, a deep humming sound. Mechanical, powerful, too rhythmic to be natural. Something was orbiting above the atmosphere, something vast, back on the eternal radiance. The Queen's Oracle AI reported, planet scan complete, atmosphere stable, population density high, technology level low. The Queen's expression didn't change. Send a silent drone, find them, and bring me proof. Moments later, a sleek silver drone detached from the ship and descended through the clouds like a falling star. Down on Earth, Ethan saw a bright streak cross the sky and crash somewhere in the forest behind his cabin. The ground shook slightly, birds flew in panic. Ethan grabbed his jacket and rifle. Stay inside, he told the twins. Lock the door. He ran into the woods, heart pounding, leaves crunching under his boots. When he reached the crash site, he froze. A metallic sphere no bigger than a car was half buried in the dirt. It opened like a flower, releasing soft blue light, and inside floated a small crystal orb. Scanning the area, Ethan ducked behind a tree, whispering, "That's not from NASA." The orb turned toward him, emitting a beam of light that scanned his body. A voice spoke from within it, alien yet clear. Human detected, unknown genetic resonance. Anomaly registered. Ethan didn't move. Every muscle tense, then suddenly the orb flashed red and shot upward. Vanishing into the clouds, he stared after it, realizing it had just scanned him and probably transmitted his location. He ran back toward the cabin as fast as he could, shouting, "Pack your things," and they found us. When he burst through the door, the twins were already standing by the window. The older one looked at him calmly, her eyes filled with sadness. Mother knows now. Ethan swallowed hard. Good. Right? She'll come take you home, but the younger one shook her head. She will destroy everything. Before he could respond, the sky outside turned crimson. A low rumble spread through the air. Like thunder rolling across the horizon, the Queen's fleet had entered the upper atmosphere, cloaked but powerful enough to bend light itself high above. The Queen stared at the blue planet through her ship's window. Her heart burned with both anger and relief. "They are there," she whispered. "My daughters breathe on that world," a soldier beside her asked quietly. "Shall we attack?" She paused, her claws tightening on the throne. "No," she said finally. "Not yet. I want to see the human who touched my blood." Her command echoed through the ship, and the fleet began to move silently around the planet, like shadows preparing to strike down on Earth. Ethan watched the sky shimmer again, strange auroras spreading across the horizon even though it was daytime. The twins pressed their foreheads together. Whispering softly in their own language, Ethan felt something deep in his chest. A strange warmth mixed with fear, whatever was coming. It wasn't just about them, it was about the whole planet. And though he didn't understand why, he knew he couldn't let anyone harm them. He looked at the glowing sky and muttered under his breath, "Guess humanity's in trouble again. And somehow I'm the guy standing in the middle, far above." Unseen by any telescope, the Queen whispered one final command to her generals. "Bring me the human alive." The first contact, the night was too quiet. No crickets, no wind, only the sound of distant thunder that wasn't really thunder. Ethan stood outside his cabin, staring at the sky glowing faint blue behind the clouds. The twins stood beside him, clutching each other's hands, their small bodies trembling though the air was warm. He could feel it, something heavy pressing against his chest. Like the whole planet was holding its breath, the older twin whispered. "She is near," her silver eyes reflecting the stars. Ethan frowned. "Your mother?" The girl nodded slowly. "Mother and her soldiers." Before he could ask anything more, a streak of light tore across the sky, silent but blinding. The trees swayed as a strange humming filled the forest. The ground beneath them vibrated softly and the air crackled with energy. Ethan stepped back, shielding the twins. Then he saw it, a massive ship lowering through the clouds, invisible at first but slowly taking shape. It wasn't metal, it looked alive, its surface breathing like molten glass and light. It hovered silently above the forest clearing, not disturbing a single leaf. A narrow beam of golden light descended, touching the ground like a staircase of fire. Ethan's breath caught. Figures emerged from the beam, tall, armored, graceful, their faces hidden behind crystal masks. Their armor shimmered with the same glow as the twins' skin. They moved without sound, surrounding the cabin in a perfect circle. One of them spoke in a metallic tone. Target located. Human present. Royal blood confirmed. Ethan raised his hand slowly. Wait, they're just kids. The soldiers ignored him. Stepping closer, weapons glowing faintly, the older twin ran forward, crying out in their language. Her voice echoed like a song made of light. The soldiers froze, lowering their weapons slightly. One of them turned to the others. It is them. The daughters of Her Majesty. Ethan let out a shaky breath. Good, then you can take them home, right? But the girls shook their heads, backing toward him, fear returning to their faces. They will hurt you, the younger one whispered. They think you stole us. Before Ethan could reply, the air shimmered again. A much stronger light pierced the clouds, and from above descended a figure draped in gold and silver. The soldiers knelt instantly, their heads bowed low. Ethan's eyes widened as the figure touched the ground. Tall, regal, wings of energy unfolding behind her like glass blades. The alien queen had arrived. The moment she appeared, the forest went silent. The light around her pulsed like a heartbeat, and even the flames in Ethan's lantern flickered out. Her gaze swept across the clearing, finally stopping on the human standing before her daughters. Ethan felt her presence in his bones, a voice in his mind whispering without words. So this is the creature who touched my blood? He tried to speak, but his throat went dry. Still, he took a step forward. I didn't harm them, he said quietly. I found them, and I kept them safe. The queen tilted her head slightly, her eyes like twin suns. Safe? She repeated, her voice echoing both in the air and inside his mind. My daughters vanished from my throne world, and you expect me to believe they are safe with you? Ethan swallowed, standing his ground. Believe whatever you want, but they're alive because of me. The soldiers around him raised their weapons, but the queen lifted a hand, stopping them. She looked down at the twins, who were crying now. They ran to her, clutching at her robes, whispering in their alien tongue. Her expression softened for the first time. But when she looked back at Ethan, the warmth vanished. I should destroy you for daring to touch what is mine, she said coldly. Ethan met her gaze. Go ahead. But I didn't take them. I protected them when something else tried to kill them. The queen's eyes flickered, and for a brief second she saw a flash in his mind. The shadow creature. The fight, the fire, the twins hiding behind him. Her expression changed, surprise cutting through her anger. You faced a wraith of the void, with no weapon but fire, she said quietly. Ethan shrugged. It was either that or let them die. The queen studied him silently. The twins looked up at her, their small voices pleading. Mother, he is good. He saved us for a long moment. No one moved, the air heavy with tension. Then the queen turned to her soldiers. Stand down. The glow from their weapons faded, and the forest exhaled as the energy field dropped. Ethan relaxed slightly, lowering his hands. So, you believe me now? The queen didn't answer, her wings slowly folding. She took a step closer to him, her aura so strong he could barely breathe. You have done what few in this galaxy would dare, she said, her tone softer but still regal. You protected what you did not understand. Ethan nodded slowly. That's what humans do. The queen looked at him for a long moment, then turned to the sky. Her ships hovered silently above the clouds. Waiting for her command, she lifted her hand slightly, a gesture that could mean peace or destruction. For a second, Ethan thought she might end the world right there, but instead she whispered, You will come with us, Protector. The council will decide your fate. Ethan blinked. Wait, I'm not going anywhere. But the twins stepped forward, their small hands gripping his arm, their voices pleading. Please come, Mother will not hurt you. He sighed, staring at the massive ship above, its lights like stars made of glass. All right, he muttered. Guess I'm going to space. The queen's eyes glimmered faintly. Unreadable. She turned away as the golden beam brightened once more. The soldiers, the twins, and the humans slowly rose into the light. The forest disappeared below, replaced by clouds, then stars, then silence. As the beam faded into the heavens, the cabin stood empty, the fire cold. Only the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the faint echo of the girl's laughter, and far above the earth, the Queen's fleet prepared for a meeting that would change the fate of two worlds forever. The human who wouldn't kneel. The stars stretched endlessly outside the crystal walls of the royal ship. Ethan stood on a glowing platform surrounded by soldiers, his heart pounding like a drum. He had never imagined he'd see space like this, not through a telescope, but with his own eyes, yet now he stood in the center of the most feared empire in the galaxy. The Queen sat upon her throne of light, her wings folded elegantly behind her. Around her, the Grand Council of the Virel watched in silence. Their faces were hidden by masks of silver and gold, their voices cold and mechanical. The Queen spoke first, her tone calm but sharp. "Human Ethan Cole, you stand before the Dominion to answer for your actions." Ethan took a deep breath, his eyes meeting hers. "I didn't commit a crime. I just helped two lost kids." A ripple of whispers passed through the council. One of the elders leaned forward. "You sheltered royal blood. You interfered with the will of a sovereign empire." Ethan frowned. "I didn't even know who they were. I only saw two children crying in the forest." The Queen's gaze remained steady, her golden eyes unreadable. "You fought a creature of the void," she said softly. "You faced it alone and you lived." Ethan shrugged. "Wasn't planning to die, they needed me, so I did what I had to." Her expression flickered for a moment. Confusion, maybe respect, maybe both. The younger twin, Lyra, ran forward before the guards could stop her. She clung to her mother's arm, her voice trembling. "He saved us, Mother. He fought the darkness for us," the older one. Nyra joined her. "He didn't hurt us, he fed us. He protected us when no one else could." The council murmured again, some voices sharp with disapproval, others hushed with wonder. Ethan just stood there, silent, letting the truth speak for itself. One of the generals, a tall figure with armor made of light, stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said firmly, "the Terran should be executed. He touched what is sacred." Ethan turned his head slowly toward him. "Touched? You make it sound like I did something wrong. I only stopped them from dying." The general's voice rose. "You defied an empire." Ethan smirked. "I didn't even know your empire existed until 10 minutes ago." A quiet gasp spread through the hall. The Queen raised her hand, silencing everyone, her eyes locked on him. "You speak with no fear," she said. "Do you not realize you stand before gods?" Ethan's voice was calm but steady. "I only kneel to what's right, not to what's powerful." For the first time, the Queen blinked, taken aback by his words. No one had ever dared speak to her like that, not in centuries. The air grew heavy as her energy filled the chamber. Light flickered and the soldiers tensed, their weapons humming. Ethan didn't move. His heart pounded, but he stood tall, his eyes never leaving hers. "You could kill me right now," he said quietly. "But it won't change what I did, and I'd do it again." Silence. Then the Queen rose from her throne, her wings unfolding in a halo of white fire. She descended the steps slowly, each footstep echoing like thunder in the vast hall. When she reached him, she stopped just inches away, her presence so intense that his skin tingled. She stared into his eyes, searching for weakness, but all she found was stubbornness, courage, and something she hadn't seen in 1,000 years. Defiance born of compassion. Finally she spoke, her voice quieter now. "You are unlike any being I have ever met, human." Ethan smiled faintly. "I get that a lot." Lyra and Nyra ran to him, standing at his side, their little hands glowing as they held his. The Queen looked at the sight, her royal daughters standing with a mortal from a primitive world. Something deep inside her heart trembled. She saw the fear in their eyes when the soldiers had aimed their weapons. She saw their trust in this human, this fragile creature who had chosen kindness over survival. Her anger began to fade, replaced by something older, something softer. She turned away, her voice trembling slightly for the first time. "Remove the chains." The guards hesitated, unsure, but when she looked back, they obeyed instantly. The metal cuffs fell from Ethan's wrists and hit the glowing floor with a soft clang. Ethan rubbed his wrists, sighing. "Thanks. I was starting to lose circulation." A few soldiers looked confused. They didn't understand sarcasm. But the Queen did, and for a fleeting second, the corners of her mouth curved into something that almost looked like a smile. She turned toward the council. "This human will not be punished," she declared. "He has shown courage, loyalty, and compassion, traits that even we have forgotten." The hall filled with murmurs again. Some of shock, some of outrage, the general shouted, "Your Majesty, this is madness." The Queen's eyes flashed and the air itself trembled. "Silence," she commanded, her voice echoing through the stars. Then she turned back to Ethan. "You saved what I could not protect for that. You have my respect." Ethan exhaled slowly, still not sure if he was alive because she forgave him or because she hadn't decided yet. The twins smiled, glowing brighter than before. For the first time since this began, the tension in his chest eased. The Queen looked at him once more, her voice steady but soft. "You may have changed more than you know. Human." She turned to leave, her wings unfolding again, light spilling across the floor like dawn. And as she walked away, Ethan stood taller, realizing something strange. He hadn't just protected two alien girls. He had reminded their entire empire what it meant to be human. The meeting, the great hall emptied slowly. Echoes of the Queen's command still rolled through the air like thunder fading into distance. Ethan stood alone beneath the towering pillars of light, watching alien soldiers disperse in perfect silence. He still couldn't believe he had survived speaking his mind to a galactic monarch. His knees felt weak, but his heart burned with a strange calm. The twins clung to him, whispering softly in their mother's tongue. He didn't understand the words, but the warmth in their voices said everything. The Queen lingered near her throne, her golden eyes fixed on the stars outside the crystal walls. For the first time in centuries, her mind was not clear. The human's words echoed inside her like ripples in still water. "I only kneel to what's right, not to what's powerful." She turned her gaze back to him. He was so small, fragile, standing there in torn clothes and worn boots. No armor, no power, no status, and yet he had faced her without fear. She wondered how a creature so limited could possess a heart so unshakable. The thought unsettled her. "Bring the Terran to the observation chamber," she ordered softly. The guards obeyed, leading Ethan through glowing corridors lined with flowing energy streams. The walls shimmered with images of galaxies. Living maps of her empire. Ethan stared in awe, whispering, "Guess Google Maps has nothing on this." The guards didn't react, but the Queen walking behind him almost smiled. The chamber opened to a vast balcony overlooking the void. Millions of stars hung before them like diamonds scattered across black silk. Earth was a tiny blue dot far below, spinning slowly, fragile and perfect. Ethan leaned against the transparent railing, whispering, "Home looks so small from up here." The Queen stepped beside him, her reflection glowing faintly in the glass. "Your world is young," she said, "yet it carries light I cannot measure." Ethan glanced at her. "Light? You mean hope?" She tilted her head, tasting the word. "Hope," she repeated quietly. "Yes, that is the human word." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't cold now. It felt like two storms slowly calming. Ethan looked at her carefully. "You really would have destroyed Earth for them, wouldn't you?" The Queen's wings flickered with faint light. "I would have burned stars for them," she said. "They are all I have left." He nodded. "I get that. Any parent would." She turned to him, surprised. "You have children?" He smiled sadly. "No. But I once had a family, lost them long ago. I guess that's why I couldn't walk away when I saw those two scared faces." The Queen's expression softened, the glow in her eyes dimming just slightly. "Loss," she whispered. "That is a word we pretend not to know, but we do." Her voice cracked like a faint tremor in crystal. For a brief instant, she wasn't a queen, just a mother. The twins entered quietly, running to her side. Their laughter breaking the silence, they spoke quickly in their native tongue, showing her a small flower Ethan had given them. It was a simple white blossom from Earth, glowing faintly now under the ship's light. The Queen touched it gently, her fingers trembling. "It lives," she said softly. "Even here in the void," Ethan nodded. "It's stubborn." "Like us humans," the Queen looked at him again. And this time there was no anger in her eyes, only curiosity. "You risked everything for children not your own," she said. "What did you expect in return?" Ethan shrugged. "Nothing. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't need a reward." She stared at him quietly, her mind replaying those words over and over in her empire. Nothing was done without purpose. Every act was political, every kindness a tool. But this human spoke of goodness without gain. It was alien to her and yet somehow beautiful. Outside the chamber, the stars began to shift. Her fleet moved gracefully around Earth, engines glowing like fireflies across the night sky. The Queen sighed. The council will demand explanation for my mercy. Ethan smiled faintly. Yeah, mercy tends to confuse people. She turned toward him, her tone soft. They will not understand why I spared you. He looked back at her. Then tell them the truth, because for once, power met humanity and didn't win. The queen blinked slowly, processing his words like they were ancient wisdom. She stepped closer, her wings folding behind her. Perhaps your kind is not as primitive as we believed, she said quietly. Ethan chuckled. We have our moments. Lyra tugged at her mother's robe, pointing at Ethan's chest where her sigil faintly glowed from when she touched him back on Earth. The queen raised her hand and light shimmered around it. That mark, she said softly, is a bond now. It links your life to theirs. Protector. Ethan stared down at the faint golden symbol, pulsing softly under his skin. So what does that mean exactly? The queen looked at him seriously. It means if you fall, my daughters will feel it. And if they are in danger, you will know, Ethan exhaled. Guess that's one way to make babysitting official. For the first time. The queen laughed, not loud, but a soft sound like crystal rain. It echoed gently through the chamber, and even the stars seemed to shimmer brighter. The twins smiled wide, their voices ringing like bells. See, mother laughs again. The queen placed her hand on their heads, her gaze drifting back toward Earth. Perhaps, she whispered. Our worlds are not as different as I thought. Ethan stood beside her, watching the blue planet below. He didn't understand the politics or the power of her empire, but he understood this moment. A fragile peace born from simple kindness. Somewhere deep inside he felt something change, and not in her, not in him, but in the space between them. Something ancient, something new. The beginning of trust, and far beyond the glass. The stars seemed to whisper, the human protector has been seen. The protector of two worlds days passed aboard the Queen's flagship. To Ethan, time felt strange here. No sunrise, no sunset, only endless stars beyond crystal windows. The twins often played near the observation deck, chasing floating lights that followed their laughter. Their joy filled the halls once silent with discipline. Even the guards began to smile when they passed, though they quickly hid it whenever the Queen appeared. The Queen herself had grown quieter, thoughtful. She spent hours watching Earth from orbit, that fragile blue marble spinning in the darkness. She had come to destroy it once, now she found herself protecting it. Something had shifted, inside her and inside her empire one evening. She summoned Ethan to the royal deck. He arrived still wearing his torn Earth clothes, looking wildly out of place among the golden walls. She stood near the viewport, her wings folded neatly, her voice calm. Your planet is safe. For now. Ethan raised a brow. For now? She turned, her eyes soft but serious. The council demands your return for study. Ethan crossed his arms. Study? No thanks, I'm done being the class project. A faint smile touched her lips. You speak with courage, always. She took a slow step closer. You are not my prisoner, human, you are my guest. He blinked. Unsure if that was supposed to be comforting. Guests usually get breakfast, he muttered. The twins giggled softly, hiding behind their mother's robe. For the first time, the Queen didn't silence them. She lifted her hand and a projection of her empire appeared. Thousands of glowing points scattered across the void. Our worlds have forgotten compassion, she said. We rule, we conquer, we calculate, but we do not feel. Her eyes turned toward him, golden light flickering inside them. And then came you, a single human, standing in fire for two lives that were not your own. Ethan looked away, embarrassed. I just did what anyone should. The Queen shook her head slowly. No, few in this galaxy would have done the same. The twins approached, handing Ethan a small orb of light. It is for you, Lyra said softly. Mother said you earned it. He looked at it, confused. A glowing ball? The Queen chuckled quietly. It is a royal sigil. It carries protection and recognition. Ethan held it carefully, feeling its warmth pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. What does it do? She looked at him, her tone solemn. It tells the galaxy that you are under the protection of the Virel throne. Ethan blinked. So, like a cosmic bodyguard pass? The Queen smiled faintly. Something like that. Then she reached forward and pressed her palm gently against his chest. The same golden mark from before glowed brighter, fusing with the light of the sigil. Her voice lowered. Wherever my daughters walk, you will be remembered wherever you walk. They will be safe. He swallowed, unsure how to respond. That's a lot of responsibility. The Queen's eyes softened. You already carried it, human, without knowing. For a moment, the silence between them felt sacred. Two beings from different worlds. One born to rule, one born to survive, now standing side by side, not as enemies, not even as allies, but as something deeper. Respect. Suddenly, the alarms flickered through the ship. An officer rushed in, kneeling. Your Majesty. Unidentified ships on long-range scan. Council fleet approaching. The Queen's expression hardened. They come to take the human. Ethan stepped forward. Then we better not let them. The Queen looked at him, surprised by his calm. You would defy them? He smiled faintly. Already defied you once. Might as well keep the streak going. She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Her wings spread wide, shining like dawn. Prepare the shields, she commanded. No one will touch what is under my protection. Her fleet shifted positions, surrounding Earth like a wall of light. When the council ships arrived, they stopped. Confronted by an armada far greater than their own, a message echoed through space, carried in every tongue, every frequency. By order of the Virel Queen, Earth is under royal sanctuary. The council dared not challenge her. One by one, their ships turned and disappeared into the void. Ethan stood watching, speechless. He turned to her slowly. You just saved my entire planet. She nodded, her voice calm. Perhaps one day, your people will save mine. The silence that followed was filled with meaning. Then the twins hugged him tightly, glowing brighter than ever. Protector, they whispered together. Our human protector. He smiled, his voice soft. Take care of your mom, all right? Lyra giggled. She takes care of everyone. The Queen stepped forward one last time. Ethan Cole of Earth, she said formally. By decree of the throne, you are granted the title Guardian of Two Worlds. No being shall harm you. Nor your kind, as long as my line endures. Ethan blinked. Guardian, huh? Kinda fancy. She smiled faintly. You earned it. Moments later, a beam of golden light carried him back toward his world. The twins waved as the stars blurred behind him. When his feet touched the soft grass near his cabin again, the sky above shimmered one last time. He looked up, seeing her ship fade into the horizon. For a heartbeat, he thought he heard her voice in the wind. Protect what is good, human. Weeks passed. Governments scanned the skies, but the alien fleet was gone. Yet a strange new satellite orbited Earth. One that broadcasted a simple glowing message across every channel. It said only 4 words written in the ancient tongue of the Virel. Protector of Two Worlds. Ethan smiled when he saw it, sitting on his porch under the stars. He looked at the same night sky the Queen had once watched. Somewhere out there, 2 alien girls were safe. And maybe, just maybe, the universe wasn't as big and cold as it used to be.